Welcome to the Prophecy Club. I have Jonathan Rose with me today. He is the owner of Genesis Gold Group, and he is the guy that helps people to take their life's savings that they've put in an IRA or a 401k, and today's going to talk about some other things, and see that you don't lose that in some kind of a stock market crash or something like that. We're going to talk about all that. Okay, so first of all, tell us, what is gold doing? Is it going up, down? What are the prospects for it?
Yeah, well, hi, Stan. Thanks for having me back on the show today. Appreciate the fact that we can sit here and just kind of have a roundtable discussion, so to speak, about what's happening in the market. And there's one thing that kind of caught my ear before my intro there: life savings, right? And that's an important part of the equation here, because these are big decisions people have to make right now with their life savings. And throughout life, you're going to have these important decisions. Your life partner, important decision. Buying your first house, that's a big decision. Pretty important, pretty stressful too. And also your life savings. And it's very important that when people are looking to make a move, make a switch, do their research, realize that a change is coming, that they do their homework, and whoever they work with, whether it's gold or whether it's not gold, that they vet these companies out and they feel comfortable with who they work with. Because, I used to work for Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley, and in the past, people used to invest money with brokers, and they never really necessarily knew their broker, but they knew the name Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley or Bank of America, and really they were buying into the credibility of that name. But when you see what's happening to the banking system today and all the infractions and the slaps on the wrist that these banks have, you should really understand that these kind of big financial giants don't have your best interest at heart today. And I think a lot of people do understand this. And if you're going to make a shift even to a commodity that you hold on to, such as gold, which we'll talk about, it's also important that, you feel comfortable with the representative or advisor, however you want to categorize these people, who you're dealing with, how long they've been doing this, and also the credibility that you can purchase metals, and something that people forget about, Stan, and that's selling metals as well. In fact, an article came out today where people saying people have been buying all these gold bars from Costco. Not sure if you read about this, something we can briefly talk about, but how do they sell them? And then people are left scratching their head because they're cool to hold on to. But one of the neat things about gold is it's liquid, and that's what makes it a great investment. Everybody wants it. I always say, real estate and gold, they're both great investments. They're not making any more of it. Pick it up while you still can. But a house is hard to sell. It takes time, right? Gold is very liquid, and it's as liquid as the cash you're holding on to. So just kind of want to preface the fact that when people go into this journey, that education and feeling comfortable, not just being thrown into something, I think that's always something that should be on the forefront of everyone's mind. Now, in terms of gold, yes, it's hitting the headlines a lot lately, and my eyes are going to dart to my trading screen here. And today, as we speak, 2,330. Gold's down a little bit today, a few dollars. And people say to me, well, why is gold down? And I always tell people that if you're looking at the price of gold, don't look at what it's doing day to day, because just like a stock, it can go up, it can go down, it can trade sideways. But when you look at the long-term value of gold, and I always look at long-term as a 5-year hold. And in fact, I look at track records. Anytime I invest in anything, housing, stocks, bonds, treasuries, I look at a track record of at least 5 years. And when you look at 5-year gold, it's a fantastic number. 5-year gold's up nearly 83%. Now, does that mean, is gold going to do another 83% rally in the next 5 years? Well, that's very subjective, and we don't have a crystal ball. But in my humble opinion, I think yes. And I think it will do more. And some of the driving forces and driving factors behind gold right now is because gold simply does what it's meant to do, like it says on the can. Anytime there's instability, when there's volatility, when there's a crisis, people move to a higher ground, because that higher ground, being gold, provides stability in one's portfolio.
Okay, as understanding that we're prophecy students, and we believe, I think almost everyone in Prophecy Club believes that if we're not in the tribulation, If it's not just over the horizon, well, if it's not the end of the street, it's at least at the end of the horizon. In other words, it's very close. And so with that tribulation, we know that there's a lot of trouble coming. And in a time of trouble, generally, the first thing that people run to is gold. Now, we have Shane Warren that says that he heard the audible voice of God say that silver will skyrocket far more than gold. And when we had Brad on, which, by the way, he did a wonderful job in your absence.
Thank you.
I really liked him. Nice, personable guy, but he was able to answer that question. Why is it that silver could possibly skyrocket far more than gold? He did a really good job on that. Where are we with silver and gold?
Scott? Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. I'm glad you mentioned Brad, because he's a very knowledgeable young man. And I said, "How did the interview go with Stan?" And he says, "I think it went well, but I was sweating. I was really sweating through the whole, because he's not used to. He's used to being behind a computer screen, not used to speaking on a broadcast. But gold and silver, where does it go from here? I think it goes one place. It goes up, because the trade deficit right now. First of all, something I'm very vocal about. Our trade deficit is over 34 trillion. It's going to be over 50 trillion in 10 years or less. And let's not go too far down the road. But with what we have right now, every 90 to 100 days, we're accumulating an extra $1 trillion in debt, which is just the interest on what we own. Now, to put it into perspective, that's more than our US national defense budget. So our debt monthly is more expensive than our yearly US national defense budget. That's a pretty scary and shocking thought.
Well, you're looking at the computer screens for the market. We're looking at the computer screens we're looking at the red heifer. We're looking at possibly Omer ushers in Palestinian state, some really big prophecies. We're looking at probably the end of this Israel-Gaza war. Israel will give the Palestinians a state. We're looking at a catastrophe probably just around the corner, possibly this year. So we're looking at some really, really big prophecies that really could come to pass in the next few months, and almost certainly by the end of the year. And so we're saying, if I have any money, I don't want to lose it. So tell me, how does all this work? Matter of fact, let me just ask a question. I was always a straight commission salesperson. I've never worked for a big company. I never had a 401k or 501 or 601 or 701. I never had any of that. So I understand that the way you would do it is the company takes out a certain amount out of your check every month or 2 weeks or whatever it is, and then they match that. And is that a 401k or is that an IRA? What's the difference? Help me understand.
Yeah. So generally speaking, you could have self-employed people, which sounds like yourself. You've been self-employed. And a lot of times self-employed or entrepreneurs, they will have something called a self-directed IRA. And in that self-directed IRA, you can open it up at your Charles Schwab, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, and they'll invest it in stocks and bonds and whatnot. And then what you're talking about is if you work for a company, you're getting a pay stub every 2 weeks, a W-2 pay stub, then chances are, if they're a good company, Stan, you have a 401k. And a 401k is really a benefits plan provided to employees. Now, the good and the bad with that is when you work for a company and they offer you a 401k plan, you're very limited in terms of what it can be invested in. In fact, you don't even have a say. You start a company, you have a 401k plan, but you don't really have any say what it's in. You just inherit this plan. And then if it's a really good company, they will start contributing to that 401k plan every year and could match. So let's say you put in 6,000, maybe they'll match it and put in 6,000. And people go throughout the decades and they either leave their employer or they turn 59 and a half and they can take this 401k with them. And a 401k is just like an IRA. It's just another word for an IRA, but you're kind of married to your workplace and you have the retirement account there. There's other words for it too, a TSP. If you're a government worker, a teacher, they probably have something called a TSP plan. And then you can start getting into the nuances of 403B and different acronyms for these pension plans, as I call them. However, these pension plans are all eligible to be rolled over into what we call a self-directed IRA, tax-free, meaning that if you have a 401k and you've left your previous work, you can have full control of that 401k and roll it over tax-free. If you are still working at your current employer and you have a 401k, and as long as you're 59 and a half, the IRS also lets you roll over this 401k into a self-directed IRA. And when you roll it over, the reason why it's called a self-directed IRA is because it's the namesake of the title. It lets you self-direct, you self-control over it. So the IRS lets you invest in different commodities in an IRA. Real estate, you may have heard some people you've come across, oh, we have some apartment units and we put them in our IRA. Cryptocurrencies are allowed, believe it or not, in IRAs. Mineral rights, oil rights, water rights, precious metals. And if it's legal, it's allowed to be housed in your IRA, approved by the IRS. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, well, and let's say I want gold inside my IRA. Who stores it? Where does it go? So one of the aspects of rolling over a retirement account is shifting from your current custodian into a specialized trust company. Now, when you have a specialized trust company, and we work with a few, they are the company that's basically responsible for all the auditing, the beneficiary setup, and all the red tape that goes along with logging in and seeing the value of your new statement. So it's still an IRA. You're just maybe moving away from your current brokerage, essentially to a new brokerage, but we call it a trust. And that trust will house your precious metals. Now, they house the legality of the precious metals, but the precious metals still have to be held in a licensed depository. So we use a licensed depository in Wilmington, Delaware. It's backed by the major exchanges. It's insured by Lloyd's of London for $1 billion. I've been there, so your metals are very safe. And in fact, I've walked into this place before, and just a quick how safe it is. They scan your body, probably hit with radiation, who knows? They scan your body, and your body scan has to match when you leave to make sure your metal trace elements are the same walking out as they were walking in.
Can't take some of your money.
Yeah, well, maybe over the years someone walked out with metals maybe where the sun doesn't shine, if you know what I mean, and maybe that's why those security measures were put into place. But it's a Fort Knox facility. It's not a bank. Make no mistake, it's not a bank in any way, shape, or form. It's a depository. It's just to hold your metals there.
Okay, now I also understand that you can put them in depositories that are closer to us that we could drive to in an emergency if we want to.
Yeah, we do have some depositories in different states. So sometimes people won't want to be in Delaware, even though I recommend Delaware because it's probably the safest and most notariable depository in America. But there's Texas, there's Nevada, so South Dakota. So people have options, and people always like to have more options than less options. So your metals are stored safe at a depository. You log on to your new custodian website, and it's like a bank account. You log on there, and let's say for argument's sake, you had $100,000 in your IRA. You still have $100,000 in there, but now it probably says 10-ounce gold bars, 1 ounce gold Canadian maple leafs, 1 ounce American Eagle. So whatever type of metals you're putting in there, and silver, it will line item it. And anytime you want to sell or take what we call a distribution or an RMD, required distribution, people call us Genesis, and they say, I have to take $10,000 this year. And then the good thing about an IRA is that when you go to liquidate your IRA parts of your position, you can actually liquidate a certain dollar amount, or you can take possession of that metal and it gets shipped directly to you. So I would actually say 95% of our clients, when they take distributions, they don't take it in cash, Stan. They actually say, we want our metal shipped to us. Right. And they'll have it shipped to them, and then they'll keep it at home, in a gun safe or somewhere safe. And that's the appeal of slowly pulling out this metal and holding on to it. Now, if you don't have an IRA, you don't have a retirement, then people would just bank wire us funds, and we simply ship metals to their doorstep, insured mail delivery, and then they keep it somewhere safe, local bank, in their gun safe again, or somewhere private. So they're the two best options for physical metals retirement account or physical delivery?
Well, I can see that the main thing is if there's trouble coming, what do I do? I don't want to lose my life savings. I want to have it someplace where in an emergency I can reach it, or I can have it sold, something like that. And it sounds like you're able to do that. Now, next question. So is there a minimum that people can invest with you?
Yeah. So in an IRA, we keep the minimum at 20,000. Reason being is because the custodians charge setup fees. So a setup fee for an IRA is about $350, round about that mark, give or take, depending what depository you're putting in. And then there's going to be yearly fees of maybe $50 to $75. So
but if they just want to just buy some gold and silver, is there a minimum for that?
Yeah, for anyone at the Prophecy Club, it's a $5,000 minimum. And they can, and people say, well, I don't have $5,000. And then I kind of try to help them out the best we can. I find out, where do they live? Is there a local coin shop? Or if there isn't a local coin shop, I will send them to a trusted online retailer that we would recommend to make a couple of coin purchases. But if they're looking at making $5,000, $10,000 above, then we're a volume purchasing house here. So we work with the US mints and we're able to provide better discounts on larger quantities. And if you don't have large quantities of cash to purchase metals, we still help people as a resource, because that's something that we believe in here. You said you've only worked commission sales jobs before, and yes, people work here and they make commissions and they have salaries, but something we like to think of ourselves here that's a little bit different is a resource, and we have time for people. And I think that's very important, because sometimes people do just want an education. And sometimes it's in the past where people have started off small, and quite frankly, Stan, they test us. And I don't blame them, because it's a lot of money. So they just want to make sure that they get their metals, the customer service is what it is. They get phone calls when they're going to receive phone calls. And it's been my experience over the years, once that happened, those people have actually turned around and said, well, actually, we want to invest $1 million, but we just wanted to check you guys out, who you said you were first. So,
okay. The big thing, the big fear that we have is we put our money into these accounts. And we've got our life savings in there. I assume we may have one, but we may have two accounts. Maybe one the husband, one of the wife, something like that. And the main thing is we don't want to lose that money. And I've heard that if the stock market goes down, depends on where it's been invested, that could go down too. And if the stock market would crash, you could wind up holding a piece of paper with no value. Is that true? And if so, how can you help that?
Well, this is the reason why people invest in gold, because they want protection from a stock market crash or currency devaluation. So if somebody says to you, well, can gold go down? And they say no, I would say run a mile, because gold can go up and it can go down. But the main thing here is understanding why people invest in gold. The stock market right now is overinflated. Some of the brightest top economists right now, people like Nouriel Roubini, he's a famed Swiss economist. They used to call him Dr. Doom for successfully predicting the 2008 crash. You have people like Michael Burry, he's a famous stock trader, and they did the movie about him, The Big Short, played by Christian Bale. So when you look at these top experts and top economists, top day traders, they're sitting on the sidelines in cash right now. Why? Because they're expecting a big serious market correction. And when this market correction happens, if you're all tied in paper, yes, absolutely, you're correct. You can be financially wiped out. Now, if you have something on the other side of the scales that's going to go up as paper goes down, that's gold. So gold has an inverse relationship to the US dollar. What does that mean? Well, that means that as the value of the US dollar goes down, the price of the yellow metal goes up. So again, it's just all about understanding gold's role in volatility and instability, and with what's about to happen next. Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, said expect more local bank failures this year. We will have more local bank failures. When it happened last April, it was like a stampede of elephants trying to come through the front door. It was absolutely insane. So, sell-offs of these banks lead to panic. Panic leads to fear, and fear leads to a lot of market uncertainty.
Okay, let me paint a scenario here. Let's say, we prophecy students, we know that the prophecies say that the dollar is going to boom devalue 30% overnight. This is not a gradual thing; it's a boom down, and then down to 50, down to 66, and eventually be worthless as leaves blowing in the wind. And it could be that it gets very close to the bottom even by the end of this year. We don't know exactly, but we know we're heading there. So let's play this scenario. Okay, so all of a sudden we've got our IRA, we've got our 401k out there, and we see that the bottom has dropped out, and we still have our gold and our silver in our IRA, but everything is just falling apart, and we don't have the money to make our house payment. We don't have the money to make our car payment because everything is just inflated. It's so expensive. They say that the price of gasoline, or excuse me, the groceries has doubled. And if those kind of things happen, we're going to need to pull some money. Okay, so let's say for whatever reason we need to pull some money from our IRA, 401, something like that. Walk me through. How does that work? How long? What's
So two things here. The dollar devaluation, and if anyone's thinking, well, that could never happen, you're right. End times talks about fiat currencies coming to an end. Something that's not in the news right now that I want people to Google is look at the Egyptian dollar. Look at how the currency in Egypt has just tanked, lost the bottom, and it's done exactly what you said. Obviously, different economy of scale. Egypt is a different economy of scale the US. However, the currency has devaluated, and people have become extremely poor overnight and lost their nest eggs. So yes, this can 100% happen here in the US. If you have an IRA and it has gold in it, you can simply take possession of it. How do you spend that gold? Well, Stan, if things get that bad and the wheels fall off the wagon, gold and silver is currency. And I always say, silver will buy you the bread and gold will buy you the bakery. And it's very, very important to understand, yes, this is a hedge, but people want something small denomination, something tradable, something spendable. And that's also one of the, I guess, superpowers of gold and silver is that it is a real currency. It used to back up the US dollar until we came off of the gold standard under Nixon in 71. So again, people say to me, well, if everything crashes and my gold's at the depository and we run out of gas or there's an EMP attack, how do I get my gold? And I always say, well, you jump on your horse and you gallop over to the depository and you load up the saddles and you come right back home. So obviously, I'm joking when I say that, but my point is that people feel a lot safer by having the metals at home in possession rather than keeping it in a vault somewhere. So systematically, I think that's why 95% of our clients, when they take distributions and they want to liquidate parts of the IRA, if they don't need the cash, if you need the cash, then it's a different story. You just liquidate it and the funds are put back into cash.
Maybe they want part of it in possession and part of it in a depository. Now, you mentioned a question there. When you say EMP, that sounds like a prophecy club. So do you have a lot of prophecy club people call, and what's your thought about them and their knowledge?
I think people are waking up. And in fact, I just started a show, funny enough, and this isn't a shameless plug for my show, but my wife and I have a show called Wake Up America, which we just started doing together on Rumble. I have to send you a couple. You can probably give me some directorial tips here on what to do, because I've never worked with my wife before, but we're very like-minded people. And I feel that, people calling in from the Prophecy Club and other avenues that we have, they're not as green as you'd think. People are very aware of central bank digital currencies, fiat currencies coming to an end cycle, banking collapses in the immediate future, being a pivotal election year. I say 2024 is the year of turmoil. So people understand the role of gold. They understand it's a crucial part of a balanced portfolio. They understand that they may want silver. They may want something spendable, something tradable, something barterable. So I think people are very educated in terms of the role that gold and silver plays. I think it's just a question of, again, like I said at the very beginning of the show, making sure that you're working with a credible group of people, and more importantly, when you go to sell it, can you sell it, and
Right.
working with the right firm that can sell it. So yes, we love speaking to people from the Prophecy Club. And like I said on the very first show, I used to listen to you back in 1998, and that was kind of a big full circle for me, being here now talking to you today, because everything that you've talked about over the years has happened, so there's a lot of weight and credibility to be said with that. And I think people that listen to you today should heed what you're talking about, what's about to happen and what's happening next.
Do I lose money if I take my 401 or my IRA and put it into gold or silver, and then at one time I have to take it out?
No, because it's a tax-free rollover, number one. Now, again, if the price of gold goes down, then just like holding a stock, yes, the value of your portfolio goes down. But again, gold isn't a short-term hold. You should be looking at a 3 to 5 year hold for precious metals. And I still stand behind this. Right before I jumped on with you, I did an interview, my second one this month, with Reuters. Reuters are a big news reporting agency. If you work in the financial markets, they're kind of like the authority on everything gold. They asked me the same questions over and over again. I was like, you asked me this question a couple of weeks. Where does gold go from here? Are you bullish on gold? What do you think of silver? And with the amount of debt that this country is in, and the staggering interest that we pay on our debt, and inflation and international conflicts,
it can't pay down. It can't.
No.
Can't. Okay, so do you sell all kinds of metals or only gold and silver? In other words, sell rhodium or palladium, or?
I can get rhodium. I've had it's funny enough, people, rhodium, yes, but it's not a very popular metal, very volatile. And also platinum and palladium. So platinum and palladium used to be great buys, but I think just based on people's knowledge and understanding of gold and silver, and more of a currency role, I still say gold and silver wins. Platinum and palladium is more of an industrial play. So maybe if an investor comes and they have like $1 million plus portfolio, they want exposure to platinum and palladium, absolutely, we can put some platinum and palladium in there. But if they're more of a smaller retail investor, I would definitely have a split allocation and stick in mainly to the two that count. That's gold and silver.
If someone were to call and say, Stan, what do you think? What should the percentage be? I would probably say like 90% in silver, and then the rest in gold. I think we should have both of it. What's your thought on that? Now, I know it depends on their situation, but in general, what's your thought on that?
Oh gosh, putting me on the spot. That's a good question. And now you're going to reveal what metal I prefer. So I agree with you on the silver. I'm probably more bullish on silver than I am on gold, because I think silver is a very undervalued metal. I would like to have at least 60, 70% of silver in the portfolio, and the rest in gold. But then we tell people that we're the navigator, you're still the captain. So whatever people want to do, we will do. Sometimes people have no idea what to do, and they will lean on our expertise. Other times people know exactly what they want, and they say, we want 100% gold, 100% silver, or 50-50. And again, we can only explain to people what we're doing here in the metals market, what we see, and it's up to them.
Question. So let's say I've got a pretty good chunk of gold and silver. Well, let's say it's a 50-50 chunk, and I've got it in some depository someplace. And all of a sudden, I think, no, I think it needs to go 90-10. Can that switch be made through the depository to go 90% gold, 10% silver, vice versa?
That's a good question. And we'll actually watch these markets. And if we feel like we need to recalibrate anyone's portfolios, it's a very easy switch to do, to switch out from gold to silver and vice versa. Or maybe if they wanted some other metals put in there. So absolutely, it's something that can be accomplished very easily.
So I call and say, look, man, I'm about to lose my house. I got to have a house payment here by the end of the month. That can happen.
Oh, I mean, you take a distribution in an IRA, shouldn't take more than 10 to 11 days.
Okay, so plan a little bit ahead.
Yeah, just like anything, if you called up your stockbroker, you put a sell order in, it'll be the next day, and then 3 days for it to liquidate, hit your account. So it's maybe a couple days in par after like a regular stock sale.
Okay, my last question. Do we get these are donations just here recently. Do we get this as an 18?
I was about to say, it looks like a Morgan dollar. Hold that up, Stan. Let me see one more time, please.
I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, it's a Morgan dollar. I love those. Yeah. Pre-33, 18. That's an 18. Yeah, it's a good one.
Somebody gave it to me. 1890. Looks like 1898.
Yeah, so you may want to get that graded. You see how this gold coin here is graded? So this is a $20 St. Godin. $20 because back in the 1920s, you could go to a bank, hand this in, and they'll give you a $20 note. Now today, this same coin is probably worth over $2,400, probably more because it's in 1908 and it says no motto. So what no motto means is normally on every coin on the back, it would say like in God we trust. And then some coins were struck without in God we trust, which means no motto on it. So yeah, there's some like mistake coins that happen, and those mistake coins are actually worth more, believe it or not. So again, this is a graded coin. And if you have an older coin dated from the 1800s, like you just showed me, this company is called NGC. It stands for Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. And when you send coins into them, you pay a small fee, but they'll grade it. They'll put it in this hermetically sealed container with a barcode,
which
hologram.
Makes it more valuable.
Yeah, it makes it more valuable. And there's another company called PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service. So if you have older coins, they're always great to get graded because you could take this anywhere in the world and now it can be identified immediately what it is. There's no guessing game and you'll know exactly how much it's worth.
Okay. Well, my question is, do we want to get 1 ounce, or this was just put in the offering this past week?
5 ounce, 10 ounce is that?
10 ounce, right. Do we want to get 1 ounce round, 10 ounce round, or a bar when it comes to gold or silver? What's better, rounds, small rounds, medium rounds, or large bars?
That bigger coin's called an ATB, America the Beautiful. That's the name for that bigger one there. It's got the cuckoo. Yeah, we have those as well. ATBs, we call those. Yeah, beautiful coin, absolutely stunning. So yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a 10 ounce kookaburra coin. Yeah, fantastic. So it really depends, what do people want? Do they want coins? Do they want bars? It comes down to having a really good personal conversation and knowing your client. Are they, sometimes people are a little bit embarrassed that they don't want to tell you that they want to use it for currency, for tradable. But then once they find out that, hey, we're like-minded people and we're telling you should have silver as currency, it's almost like their shoulders drop and it's a sigh of relief. Oh, I'm not you're not going to call me a conspiracy theorist. No, you're not a conspiracy theorist. And you're absolutely right. You should have small denomination. Silver rounds, I like, definitely in every portfolio. Silver rounds are very liquid. They're spendable. They're easy to trade from silver back into cash. Bars, yes, some bars are good, but a lot of bars now have serial numbers on them and they're trackable. And if you want to have them in your IRA, that's a whole topic for another show. But I don't want to stick my finger between the tree and the bark, but there's a lot of this CBDC nonsense and metals that are now becoming trackable with chips in them and whatnot. If you're keeping metals at home, it doesn't matter what you buy because you don't have a custodian involved. And when I say, well, what's that got to do with it? Well, you have an IRA, social security number, custodian, reporting. So I like to stay away. This is fine. Because it's not a trackable serialized bar. Actually, this one does have a serial. You see the serial numbers?
You have my address, right?
Well, that's my point. Okay, if you care for your privacy, and this is something we educate people on, there's certain types of coins and bars you want to stay away from. So again, this is some of the secret sauce where people work with us, because we educate people on all of this stuff. If you're keeping this stuff at home, modern day bullion is fine, serialized bars is fine, but when you're rolling over your IRA, I like to be a little bit more selective and a little bit more protective on what types of metals I personally prefer in there.
So do you like the Prophecy Club people to call you guys?
Absolutely, yeah. They can call us at 800-200 gold, and they can speak to any of our representatives and ask questions and get an understanding, get a definitive gold guide, have some pictures of the different types of coins and products on there, and getting understanding, which coins and bars will be better for a long-term hold, which types of coins will be better for keeping at home, something spendable, something tradable, something barterable. So I always say, start with an education, and that's the first rung up the ladder, is the education, understanding. And once people feel comfortable, then they're comfortable to work with us and let us know what they have, what their thoughts are, and what type of retirement accounts they have, and knowing their options and how they roll it over. And that's exactly what we do. And we love helping anyone that calls in and mentions, your name, Stan. And in fact, anyone that does call in right now and mentions the Prophecy Club, we're waiving all IRA setup fees. So that will be a $300 savings for them. So I do urge them that if they are thinking about moving into metals, they have an IRA and they give us a call, or they go to your website, prophecyclubgold.com, and in the notes section, mention Stan sent me, or you're from the Prophecy Club, then we will actually waive their IRA setup fees.
Excellent. So, Jonathan Rose, GenesisGoldGroup.com or ProphecyClubGold.com, or 800-200-GOLD, 800-200-GOLD. Call them, see if they can help you. None of us want to lose our life savings. None of us want to lose our house, our car, because we don't have the money, because everything fell apart. Jonathan, thank you for being on, my brother.
Thank you, sir. Always appreciate having me.
Again soon. I don't want us to be in line begging for food. Instead, I want to be us in line giving out food. And so here's what I suggest you do. Go to Joseph's Kitchen. It's bread. I mean, I have bread for all of my breakfast, and my lunch is a slice of bread. You want to go to Joseph's Kitchen. What you want to do is get this machine package right here. That's all of the gizmos you need to actually make the bread. Then the supplies are like this. Food for one person 1 year, 2 people a year, 4 people a year, 6 people a year. They're ready to ship it out right now. They've got all of this stuff. They're not out of anything. They can ship it to you. And there's videos, and there's also recipes to show you how to make all kinds of bread recipes. I think I would call bread famine food. In the days of Joseph and the pyramids, 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. And what was it that fed the world for 7 years? And the answer, wheat. Wheat. And that's what Joseph's Kitchen sells, wheat. Wheat is, there's not a perfect food. In other words, one food where a person could eat nothing but this food their whole life, but probably wheat comes the closest. So recommend you go to Joseph's Kitchen, get yourself stocked up.